Hello, welcome to Green Tech Southwest. We are just doing a quick sound and camera check. It's for anyone that's there, so just bear with us a minute and I will start sort of hosting and welcoming you all shortly. Cool, so you might see the ceiling for a minute whilst I put my phone down. So bear with me. Okay. Oh. This is probably a bit of background noise at the moment. Okay. All right, cool. Okay. Right. And if I do that, it's got to be that way up. Right. Okay. Welcome everyone to Green Tech Southwest. As you can probably see, we've got some in-person stuff going on here. So I'm just coming with my mobile to give you a sense of the event this evening. Here we are. We are at the wonderful engine shed in Bristol, which is right by Temple Meads train station. I know that there'll be many of you from Bristol that can't make it tonight who'll be catching the event. So here we are. So you can get a sense of the event, what we've got going on here. We've got some drinks and food down the back and lots of lovely people having a lovely chat. I'm going to come a little bit further away so I can come and do some admin stuff with you all. It's very weird. I can see myself on many different screens as I approach my laptop. So, okay. Excellent. So, I can see there's a few of you on our online room already. Let me just see if I can. Sorry, it's always fun trying to do these things in person. How's that? Okay, better. So for those of you that are joining us online, I think there may be 10 of you at least already who are here and online. Please do feel free to introduce yourselves in the comments. It'd be lovely to know who's here, who's listening in. We're going to start the event properly in about 6 minutes time. So we aim to try and run on time. Hello to Simon and hello to Seth. Sounds like a very Welsh name to me, Seth. So welcome, if I'm saying that right. I do hope I am. It's great to have you all here. Vicky as well. Hello, really nice to see you. It's really, really exciting to see those of you joining us online. And of course, for those of you that maybe haven't quite seen, if you're just joining the live stream, we've got our in-person people down at the end. I've come a little bit further away just to make sure that we don't have any too much noise interruption. So if it's your first time along to a Green Tech Southwest event, you are most welcome, and we are delighted to have you here with us this evening. We will be doing our famous 60-second intros at the beginning of the event. For those of you that are here online, you are also able to do 60-second intros. So if you feel that you'd like to introduce yourself to the community, both online and in-person community, just let me know in the comments. And we will invite you to the screen and enable your audio and your video, and you'll have a 60-second pitch, just like everybody who's here in the room with us tonight. Hello to Heather, joining from Switzerland. Oh, welcome, Heather. We love it when we have people from outside of the UK joining us as well. It's exciting that you're with us. And Ness, welcome. Ness, I know you're a local person too. I'm sorry that you can't make it tonight, but again, this is why we have the live stream, because we know that not everybody can get here, and maybe not everybody wants to be in person as well. So we've been incredibly grateful to everyone who's been part of our online community since we started, and we want to do our best to include you as well as we can. And a massive thank you to those of you that attended our last hybrid event when you were online. We've got a lot of really useful feedback from that event, and we really hope, fingers crossed, see my fingers crossed, that we've made some improvements on that experience for you this evening. So what else do I need to say? So we'll be starting in a few minutes time, 3 minutes. I am not the main event. I am here just to ensure that we don't have too much tumbleweed, because that's not very nice, is it, when you're online? Nick, welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening, Nick. I know you're another local person, but again, super glad that you're able to join us online and we're able to have you as part of the community. So it's really, really nice to see you all and nice to have you here. As I mentioned already, we'll be doing 60-second intros. There'll be plenty of opportunity for everybody to ask the speakers questions as well. Again, those of you that are online, you're going to be able to ask questions. If you're familiar with our normal online events, you'll be able to ask questions using the Ask a Question feature, which is at the bottom of your screen. I'm going to have the fun job of writing them out on paper and then taking them over to Mike to ask to everyone in person. So that's going to be fun. So it'd be great if you could keep your questions short. Otherwise, I have to write them all out. Poor Mike will have to struggle with my handwriting. Bjorn, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you've been to many of our events in the past, and fantastic to have another European joining us from Denmark. So absolutely wonderful to have you. And David, hello in Bristol as well. Great to have you join us. So we are just asking our in-person and settle down, and we'll get rolling shortly. The proper camera and the proper mic. So bear with me whilst I walk. I don't really know if you probably don't want to see my face, so I'll just sort of like hold it this way as I walk down to the room. So you can see everyone. Oh, here we go. Woo! It's kind of fun. Hello, everyone. Give us a wave. Hi. We've got lots of people online joining us this evening. Okay, so, all right, we're just getting set up. So Sam is going to enable our camera and mic shortly.
And then you need to invite me on. So I think Hannah.
Okay, so I'm going to put myself on mute whilst, and you'll hear from Ellen shortly.
The different layers that go into the hybrid events.
Okay. So Ellen, do you want to just...
Yes, I think you need to invite me up so I can put my slides on there. I think so. Yeah. That's a good job we gave them pizza. Can I just, am I on now? Can I just share my screen? No, you're not on. No, because I'd have a little thing along the top. On this mic. Sorry. Join. Oh, no, thank you, Mike.
Toggle camera. No. Chrome tab there.
So thanks for bearing with us, online peeps. We're just getting everything set up. You can see me. Hello, I'm here in the background. You can see me waving. And Ellen and Mike are just bringing up the screen, the slides on the screen now. And I think we're good to go. So I'm going to hand over to Mike and Ellen.
Every day.
Right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for bearing with us there. As you can see, a few layers to going through. Ooh.
My
laptop show.
double Ellen. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
thing.
It's muted, isn't it? So, I think, is that yours potentially, Sam? Is that better?
No.
Good. How about now?
Sounds okay to me.
Sounds okay. So maybe is it your phone? Maybe.
Let's ask everyone online.
Yeah.
Well, it's good job we fed you,
because otherwise it could be a little bit awkward.
Yeah,
Sorry about this, guys. We will get started.
Don't know
Don't know
why
why I sort of keep asking the same question, expecting the result, but feeling a bit helpless here. Sounding okay?
No, other people can hear
An echo.
Is it to do with your microphone and the sound?
We haven't got the sound
system
system on.
so
It's the camera.
Is this?
That's on mute. So
That's on mute.
Sorry,
It's not, there's not another microphone.
I run all of this, and then
no, I don't think we
No.
can do.
and then
Switch all these off.
I don't think it would be that.
No.
It might just be that there's a bit of an echo. I don't think, because unless it's your microphone on your phone, Hannah, have you muted your phone? Yeah.
and your laptop as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
It's weird because I can't actually hear anything. It sounds fine in my.
okay, well,
Okay.
I think it might just be the room.
Maybe. Yeah. See how I'll talk slowly because I do have a bit of a habit of talking fast, which with an echo might be quite traumatic for people. Right, off to a judge restart. But hello everyone, thank you so much for coming. Yeah, we're really grateful that so many of you turn up to our live events. Obviously, as you can probably tell, we had a lot more online events, and yeah, we're just really keen to be able to get back and chatting to people, and yeah, just making some more connections and not just logging off and feeling a bit like, okay, that was that. So yeah, so this is us.
That was me.
trying to trip me up there. But yeah, as you can probably tell, I'm Ellen. I am one of the co-hosts along with Mike and Hannah. But they'll be coming on at various times to introduce themselves as well. You'll be seeing a lot of us. We've also had a growing list of volunteers who we're ever so grateful for. Again, some faces you recognise milling around here. So yeah, don't worry, they don't bite. So yeah, Green Tech Southwest, you probably do know, but just to sort of reiterate, we aim to basically showcase a variety of people using tech to solve sustainability problems using ingenious methods. We support our local community with an open, inclusive ethos. We do have a code of conduct and a constitution, which will be shared for those online, but nub and gist of it is just be nice. Obviously, sustainability is a very emotive topic, and people come from lots of different lenses and different standpoints. So yeah, just be open-minded and yeah, be nice. Or we'll kick you out. I literally would not dare. We've had loads of events, as you've probably heard me rattling on about, and our wonderful sustainable web developer Hannah has made us an amazing website. So anything, any of our past events are all up there with any sort of links and resources, shared interviews, the whole lot really. So yeah, feel free to check us out. And yeah, because a lot of the topics do come around quite a lot. So it's good to see what we've done in the past on that topic. So now we'll be doing something called a 60-second intro. Many of you probably familiar, but it's just, yeah, we don't really like to be the people presenting all the time. We want to give you the opportunity to basically have a humble brag if you've got a project or anything that you've been working on, or you've come across something really cool and you just think the community ought to know, should know, then yeah, this is sort of an opportunity for you to come up and just succinctly tell us about it. So we'll probably do a bit of a online or in persons, then online 60-second intro alternation. So do I have any
on in-person volunteers so far to get the ball rolling? I can make eye contact with you people, so I can't do that with online, so whoever, that might be a bit intimidating, sorry. Or have we got any onliners yet? Perfect, yes, come, yes, amazing, yes.
Should I come up here?
Yeah, come up here, and then people from online will be able to see you as well. This little box isn't just my safety blanket, it's a microphone, so that online people can hear you, so yeah.
Okay, so hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a front-end developer. I work at a data science and AI company called Ada Mode, working in the renewable energy sector. I'm also a tech writer, and at the moment I'm writing an article about how developers can help sort of push sustainable principles and sustainable actions within their organisation, and I would love to hear if anyone has any examples of having successfully done this or what kind of barriers you encountered. So yay, come and talk to me.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And yeah, what I'll do as well is I'll go around and get people's email addresses or LinkedIn profiles off as well, so that I can add them to our what's it called, write-up. So if you want to make contact with anyone after the meetup, we'll try and facilitate that. Do we have any volunteers from online, or are we? Not yet? No. Any more in person? Here we go. Shirt for the occasion. Hi, Andy. There you go.
Hello, I'm Andy from Business on Purpose, and I'm a B Corp consultant. So I work with clients, well, all over the place, to be honest. You can't hear me? Okay, well, I'll just keep talking then. Sorry, everyone. But yeah, so I help companies go through the B Corp process. B Corp is to business what fair trade is to coffee. And we help clients to go through that certification process across a couch to 5K 10-step program that is not too scary, as John will testify, I'm sure. But yeah, if there's anyone that's interested in B Corp, then please come find me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Amazing. Sound issues, are they still? Okay. Swap the mic. Maybe that's a good idea. Is that any better? Yes, it does, yeah. Not better, okay. So should we press on, or? Yeah. Cool, we might have to press on, Hannah, if that's... Yeah, okay, cool. Try and figure that out. Cool. Any more volunteers for the 60-second intros, or? No? Okay, I think if there's anyone from online want to know. Okay, cool. No worries. Right, well, we'll press on in that case. So now for the main event. So yeah, first up we've got Jaime and Tom from Kaluza, and what I'll do is I'll hand over to Mike and let you
Yeah. Great stuff. If you want to come up, guys, and we'll just get you set up. Just bear with us, everyone. We'll just flick some around.
Yeah.
Running on the sound of the ship now. That sounds really creepy. No, that's using the microphone.
good.
Good, great stuff. Thanks for your patience. So Tom Mallett, who's Sustainability Manager for Kaluza. It's over to you. We'll take questions at the end from in the room and at home. That'll be after John's talk. So after Tom and then Jaime, we'll bring John on, and then there'll be questions across sort of the room and at home afterwards. So.
You guys are being really patient. Thank you so much. This is not going great. Let's be honest. So thank you for being like really nice and understanding. And let's just hope everyone at home
Well, hi everyone. I'm Tom. I'm our Sustainability Manager at Kaluza. I am a very non-techy person, so I'm going to leave that to James to talk through. But what I will go through is what Kaluza actually is, what do we do for sustainability, and then, as I said, I'll hand over to James to talk through more of the sustainability stuff that we're doing in the tech space. So, are we on? We good?
Yeah, keep going.
Amazing. All right. Cool. So, like I said, we're Kaluza. We're about 500 people close to. We've got offices in the UK, US, Portugal. We work out the OVO building around the corner, for those of you who've seen the green wall. We have we've got two main products I'll go into in a minute, but we look at EV smart charging as well as energy retail software. We work with a whole list of clients, over FTC.
You might have to present your slides. They're not actually presenting currently on Crowdcast. I don't know if that's... Sorry.
Oh, Jaime. Not touching that.
So I think...
Cool. Two products that we have, pretty simple. One is that software that provides energy retailers everything they need to function. We call it meter to cash. The other side, I'll come up in a second. So when you're at home, when you get your meter reading, if you're not a smart meter, you type in that into the program. That's us. And then everything from that all the way through to getting your bill out the other end, that's still us. And we produce that bill. We've also got a couple of add-ons to do things like service agent interfacing, as well as we do some production of the backbone for OVO's website that you will go and log on to if you're with OVO. The other product that we have is what we call Flex. Quite exciting. That's our smart charging for smart devices, so like EVs, heat pumps, and so on. And also where we've got batteries, so EVs, for example, or just physical batteries, we started to look at how you can export that power back to the grid. The reason why that's super important is the wind doesn't blow all the time, the sun doesn't shine all the time. So at those points when we don't have the wind, we don't have the sun, we need to be able to support the grid with smart. For example, if it's the middle of winter, we all turn our kettles on at 5 o'clock at the end of Hollyoaks. There's no wind, there's no sun. That's your car that's going to start pumping energy back into the grid. Okay.
Yes, yeah, I think that'd be good.
Oh no. Something like with all privacy settings, I'd have to come all the way out.
Okay.
Share. Can you see?
See that? I mean, we've got your slides here.
Yeah, can you share?
Do you want to share it from here? Yeah. Cool. So just take the HDMI and then we should be able to share from here. Thanks, guys. Cool. And then I think your webcam's on at the moment, so just if you take that down and then here we go. Just go toggle video there. Whoop. Coming up. Toggle video there. There we go. Cool. And then share screen. And no, window. Here we go, back in the game, I think.
Fantastic.
Back in the game. Just really building the anticipation for this talk. Right, I'll let you sort. Oh god. Is it showing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It
Sorry, am I
was,
just
it
yeah?
was,
Are you
yeah.
able to control it now, or is it? Yeah. Oh. You want that one? Here we go. And then yeah, and then yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. Here we go. Like I said, needs to cash. And then this is Kaluza Flex. It's all about innovative propositions. What's really interesting about these two is they talk to each other. So on the Flex side, we piloted a scheme with OVO where you can use that OVO Flex, that returning that smart energy back to the grid, actually earning money. We've got reports of people who spent nothing on their energy bill in some months because their car's been exported back to the grid. Cool. It's this one that's going, isn't it? Fantastic. So, at Kaluza, we talk a lot about the energy transition. For those of you who aren't familiar with the energy industry, this is essentially what it is. So today, or historically, we're quite a linear system of energy where some big generator somewhere burns some oil, burns some coal, burns some gas. That energy is distributed through large pylons, the smaller pylons, and then into your home. The energy system of the future is going to be highly integrated. So the reason for that I mentioned already is as we move towards renewables, they're less able to work all the time. And so we need to be smarter with when we're using energy and how we're returning that energy back to the grid. And that's this way more complicated story on the right here, where you've got kind of home generation, so turbines and solar panels on the roofs. But then things about like how we're heating and cooling our homes. So how are we doing that all the time, or are we being smart about that? The worst time in the grid is between 5 and 7 p.m. That's also the time most people get home and turn on their heating. Can we shift that load to a different time of day because it's better for the grid and greener? Cool. Like I said, energy retail, that's our kind of core product. That's everything from that means to cash. It's all about kind of being speed and agile. That's kind of our real USP, different to other places, and lowering costs. Now, combining those two things together makes a really attractive business proposition for retailers. What that then enables them to do is going to be more innovative with the products that they offer. So I mentioned OVO's Drive Anytime program. That's their using an EV to return energy back to the grid and smart charge it. And so those new propositions that we're seeing come up come as a result of those top two. The other things that top two does is we've heard a lot about energy prices rocketing in recent months. We're also working to reduce that issue. Cool. Flex, on the other hand, is interesting in the sense that it's all about that live demand response. The way the grid works is when an event comes on site at 5 o'clock after Hollyoaks, they know, oh God, everyone's going to press their kettle. An event alert goes out and we can respond to that in the moment. I mentioned our vehicle to grid trial. That's that pushing energy back from people's electric vehicles sitting on the driveway into the grid. And we're looking at taking this learning from the UK all over the world. So we work with people, US, Asia, Pacific, so on. Right, that's all well and good. But what our vision really is to power a world where net zero is in everyone's reach. So breaking that down slightly, there's obviously the power in the world, but it's all about net zero and everybody's reach. So we want to make sure that net zero is accessible for everybody. And the way that we do that is called mission transition. And there's two pillars to mission transition. This is really the core of our sustainability strategy. It's our sustainability strategy and business strategy hand in hand. Internally, leading by example is all about what we're doing in our own carbon footprint. It's our own certification. Andy, you mentioned B Corp earlier. Great example of how we want to lead by example. And on the other hand, we've got accelerating energy transitions. That's looking outward. How are we supporting our clients, our customers with their own energy transition journey? How are our products avoiding emissions for others? So we talk about that a lot. This is all well and good, but we actually wanted to be a bit more crystal clear with this strategy. So we've set a load of targets. Internally, we want to be carbon negative by 2030. That's in line with SBTi's net zero. One of the first things they've had, first applications they've had that's carbon negative or net zero by 2030. So we're really proud of that. But in order to get there, we need to reduce our own emissions by 90%. We will be removing 10 times our footprint from the atmosphere from 2030 and onwards. And by 2030, we'll only be working with net zero suppliers, or those that have reached what we call 27 carbon-free energy. That's like one step on from renewables, where every minute of the day is accounted for by a renewable source. On the external front, we set ourselves 3 different targets around this. As I said, it's all about net zero for everybody. We want to reduce our clients' cost to serve. That's a key metric around how they operate by 50%. We want to reach 100 million users, so a big range of people. But also through those two, we want to make sure that we're removing or we're sort of avoiding 10 million tons of carbon for those 100 million people. These are our 2030 targets that we think are really achievable within the business and the products that we offer. This kind of all comes together in this one view where this is really our net impact of our business, where we think that we're going to reduce our own footprint, but actually we really need to focus on how we're avoiding the emissions of others. So this orange line is basically us saying, look, here's the ability of our products to avoid and reduce emissions of others. We're also going to clean up our own house, get our own act in order. But here's what we think we can impact on the world. Right, that's me done. That's the overview of Kaluza. I'm going to hand over to Jaime to talk a little bit more detail, or a lot more detail, and some really great examples of the software work that we've done internally to start down that nice plan.
Jaime, just before we get going again, I'm just having some slide issues with online. I'll just remember slide 13. Let me just see. The Crowdcast is sharing these ones. Is that sharing now? Okay. And then if I press slideshow, which is here. Slideshow. Yay. Okay. Is that showing for you guys? No? Sorry, no, I don't really skip over it. Did that do anything?
Change it, but once you've shared it, it's not allowed to come through on the broadcast. When you actually when you go into slideshow mode, it suddenly just
Is that better?
yeah.
Is that?
So if we just,
You might be able to just click through.
Oh yeah, and then would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
hi everyone. Okay, so I'm Jaime, Head of Engineering at Kaluza. Like Tom said, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing within the engineering space to really contribute towards our company goal of that sustainability. So I think everybody knows that software development has an environmental impact. 2 main areas that we look at are the cloud services and also the embedded carbon within our laptops and our data centers. So we are working with a number of providers like AWS, GCP, and they're all working on their own decarbonisation journeys as well. But Kaluza are growing really, really quickly. And as a result, we're actually using more energy than they're able to decarbonise. And so that's why it's super important that we start focusing on what we can do internally if we're going to achieve that 2030 target that Tom mentioned. So the 3 areas that we're looking at, we're calling Green Dev, Carbon Visibility Dashboard, and Green Labs. I'll go into those in a bit more detail. In Green Dev, this is a Green Dev handbook. And what that is it's split into 3 different categories. One is making changes to our development process. So, for example, reducing the amount of logging that we're doing, optimizing how we manage our data and our storage. So, as an example, removing any unused infrastructure. And thirdly, changing the ways that we work day to day. Simple things like, again, an example, we use Ecosia. If you haven't heard of Ecosia, it's a search engine. They use their profits that they make from advertising to plant trees. So the more searches that we use, the more profit they make, the more trees they plant. Really simple change, anybody can do it. The Green Dev Handbook is a relatively new concept to the world of engineering. So what we want to do is we want to lead the way, learn and inspire others to adopt similar practices. It's intended to be part of our software development. This isn't something new, right? And all of our services should be optimized around energy as well as efficiency and cost. It's part of, it's not just about making fixes to the services that we have today. We really want to embed it so that we take that sustainability aspect into our design and our development processes. The recommendations within the handbook, they're highlighted by actions that teams can make, and the way that we do it is that we highlight the highest value to effort ratio. So teams can determine, I've got this amount of time, I could do X, or I've actually got this amount of time, I could do Y. And so what we're doing is we're asking that they adopt those. And I think a lot of people look at these and say, oh, that's going to take even more time. Quite the contrary, right? We really see that these things are going to help mature our platform and actually make things more efficient. This is an example of our carbon visibility dashboard. It's really small, so I know you can't see the details, so don't worry about that. It's just meant to give you an idea of what data that we provide to our internal employees. The summary shows our overall carbon emissions across the whole of our platform. They can then drill down into a team level, and they can see their carbon emissions by squad, by team, by their account, and see the difference over the past 30 days. There's a huge backlog of features that we want to build into this dashboard, and we're slowly getting there. It's just taking time. But ultimately, the aim is that this dashboard will allow us to track every single change that we make and what impact that has on our sustainability goals. The third thing is Green Labs. So this is a group, a very small group of engineers, design and product people who use it as part of their, I call it extracurricular activities, so on top of their day job. And they come together and they're ready to just hear about any propositions, sustainable propositions that our employees have, either internally or externally focused. And the idea is that we'll take those and turn them from like writing on a piece of paper into a proof of concept, a clickable demo, or maybe even just by doing some research. So I'm taking you through the three initiatives that we'll look at. Let's look at some of the examples of what the teams have actually done. So in 1 week of effort, one of our teams took their queries, they combined it into one query. They migrated it away from BigQuery into Postgres and AWS, and that actually led to a 97% cost reduction. Another team held something called a Green Dev Day, where they just focused for the whole day on doing user stories, working through user stories that were very specifically focused on sustainability. That's just a couple of the ideas that they came up with and a couple of the results. Along with those two changes, the feedback that we got from them was that they had a much better development experience, and they also reduced the feedback loop on their CI test run, which meant that actually time to deploy was also really reduced as well. The third one was one engineer just happened to spot that actually we were sending a lot of logs to GCP and we didn't need to do that. So he just spent literally about 30 minutes worth of effort in reducing those logs, and he reduced them by over 95%. So towards the company, that saved them about £1,400 a month. It's also contributed towards a 30% saving in our CO2 emissions, which is a whopping 60 kilograms every month. So what is 60 kilograms? I'm actually from Brighton. I travelled here from Brighton. Thanks to our lovely train network, it took me 6 hours to get here. Ordinarily, it would take me 3.5 hours. And 3.5 hours, the associated carbon emissions is 8.1 kilograms. If I'd driven, it would have taken me 4.5 hours and 27.3 kilograms. So that 60 kilograms of saving means like 7 times offsetting my train journey today, or twice offsetting the car journey. So at Kaluza, we believe that making small changes like this really do add up, and that we can start to change the world by engaging in any or all of those 3 initiatives I've just spoken to you about. So I will leave you with a quote. So doing little things well is a step towards doing the big things better. Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much, Jamie and Tom. Thanks for sticking with us on the tech side. Hopefully it's all done now. So yeah, next up is John Gibbins from As It Should Be. Just a reminder that we will do questions straight after, and if you're online, not near a microphone, but yeah, just post your questions in the Ask Questions section. And let's we'll just get John hooked up a minute.
Does that work? That's fine. Yeah, that works. And then get progress on both. Yeah. It's microphone. You need the microphone.
It's this laptop, and actually it is picking up.
It is. Okay, cool. That's good. So when I'm whispering next to the
Yeah, whispering.
It's actually good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Back it up, mate. Yeah. So yeah. And you've got the notes there. So, yeah. And I think the problem was if we present it, that's when it lags. So if we just keep it minimized, but do what Jamie did and just
press on there.
Yeah. I think going a little bit.
Don't be shy. Get anyone anything? Yes, go for it. Please. Drink straight. That's all right. Why not?
So people enable it for like sharing the screen.
To present it, John.
Yeah. Because I wasn't sure. I think you can get you can go to slideshow. And the way that you can put it into custom slideshow. I think maybe not. On mine, you can put it into like the window view. You've just got the window full screen without the notes and everything.
Yeah.
Then it's like
Coming up on the screen behind us because it's plugged into two screens, isn't it?
oh right, so that works like that. Or no, so you'll be presenting that side.
I think you just use that as your notes one, and that's presenting.
Yeah. What are you saying?
So we haven't added you to Crowdcast yet.
No, we're doing it through here.
Yeah. Do you want to accept the invite?
I already have. We're presenting now. Should be.
And everyone can hear us, of course, because we're running through the mic.
Well, because I'm not accepting join there, but I'm going to have my notes on here.
So is this Jamie's laptop? Is that your laptop?
Yeah. No, that one. Yeah, say no thanks. In fact, that was that
I know. I'm trying to. Yeah. I'm trying to. Yeah, they can still see my emails.
Yeah.
I don't know how we get around that.
Back to
So we're always looking for volunteers at Green Tech Southwest, and if anyone's good with tech, slides and double screens, then we could definitely use some help. So you'd be very welcome to help. Sorry, not.
Hit notes, so you can't see the notes. And then hit that so you don't see the side of it. No, you have to minimise the size. You might just need to drag it off. That's the sort of best you can do.
We just move these slides in time.
Does that work? There we go. And then we got there. Having said that,
Not quite gone according to plan, as you can tell. You'll be very patient and you're taking it, as a bit of fun. So thank you for that. And then, Mike, do you want to introduce John?
Yeah, John is now ready. So as it should be.
just unplugged your laptop as well. Hang on, I'll fix that for you. There you go. Cool. Thanks for having me today. I really need my notes for this talk because it's a new talk for me. So I'm usually a bit more dynamic than I probably will be, but bear with me. So leave no one behind. It's one of the core principles of the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. If something doesn't work for all people, it's prone to risk and it's not sustainable. If we exclude people in our work, the output will be less sustainable, whether it's products, services, or solutions to climate change. And as we look to the future, our idea of what it means to be inclusive and sustainable is likely to shift. We have a growing population and an aging population. In fact, it's estimated that by 2060, there will be twice as many older people than younger people. All this relates to the people pillar of what some call the triple bottom line and the very definition of sustainability. Meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability for future generations to meet their needs. We're talking about long-term fairness, and diversity and inclusion is a key aspect of achieving that. Now, there are many emotive topics that interplay when we talk about inclusion, and it's a challenge in many areas of life, not least in sustainability and in climate action. So when we're talking about inclusion, perhaps we're talking about gender and LGBTQ+ issues, racism and racial justice, economic equality, environmental justice, and disability inclusion. Conveniently, that spells greed. We're not all equal. The climate emergency affects all of us, but some groups of people are often left behind or excluded entirely. The thing about sustainability, environmentalism, and inclusion, these are complex and diverse topics. They're multifaceted and multi-stakeholder. I like this quote from, this is progressing automatically, this is not helpful, but I like this quote from Leah Thomas in her book, Intersectional Environmentalism. We cannot save the planet without uplifting the voices of its people, especially those most often unheard. There's much to be done to include underrepresented communities. If we define underrepresented communities to go beyond ethnicity and race, and disabled people are the largest minority group, yet are often overlooked as part of efforts in environmental movements and even in diversity and inclusion efforts. Nothing about us without us is a mantra of disabled communities. Disabled people feel like their voices are not heard. And in November 2019, This issue led some leading researchers to write a letter into Science magazine encouraging more to be done in this area and include disabled people. Now, this varies by source. I have in the past said 1 in 5 people have a disability, but it's estimated that as many as 1 in 4 people on this planet have a disability, up to 2 billion people in the world. In countries both developed and developing, being a disabled person represents significant disadvantage, both economically and socially. Across the world, disabled people experience more negative outcomes, whether it's poorer health, education and employment, lower income, higher rates of poverty and cost of living. This is partly because disabled people experience barriers in accessing many things that others take for granted: healthcare, personal well-being, education, employment, financial well-being, political engagement, transport, commerce, information. Climate change disproportionately affects disabled people, amplifying their already negative experiences. And let me skip to there. Climate change and disabled people. Adaptability. Disabled people know all about adaptability, but it can be harder for them to adapt to climate change and adapt behaviours in the name of climate action. It's more of a challenge for disabled people who live with already compromised health to adapt to climate effects such as heat waves and air pollution. Affordability. Some changes in the name of climate action are not within the budget of many disabled households. Response. Disability communities on the front line of climate change are the most vulnerable to its effects. Imagine a situation for disabled people in a world of increasing climate refugees. It's estimated that 200 million people will be climate refugees by 2050. That means somewhere between 30 and 50 million disabled people are more likely to need additional aid during evacuations or migrations. They need early access to things like shelter, social support services, and medical assistance. With more limited mobility, it's much more of a challenge to escape the increasing occurrences of things like wildfires, hurricanes, flooding. Roughly 150,000 disabled and elderly people were affected by Hurricane Katrina back in 2005. The Russian-Ukrainian war has seen millions fleeing their homeland, with around 12 million Ukrainians who needed assistance to evacuate. It's around 8 million disabled people, plus families with children, and perhaps many more who are injured. Many of us will have seen the recent flooding in Pakistan. Of the 33 million people impacted by those floods, 2.3 million elderly and 5 million were disabled. Well, back here in Bristol, the Bristol Disability Equality Forum found that when surveyed, 89% of disabled people care a lot about climate change. 93% are already taking some kind of action. Now, looking after our planet is a team sport. We need to include disabled people and we need their help. Inclusion is all about people. It's about understanding people and the barriers that they face. Accessibility is about understanding disabled people and the barriers that they face. I want to make clear that what I'm talking about here is disability inclusion rather than inclusion in a broader sense. And disability inclusion is much more about identity and a person's living experience than it is about what a person can or cannot do. It's about accessibility it's not necessarily about accessibility in the sense of availability, but this definition can include appropriate, inclusive, accessible communication. As much as anything, accessibility is a human rights issue. And it's about freedom, giving people the freedom to be who they are and to live their life with equity. In day-to-day life, disabled people meet barriers in the real world. I could go into detail here, but we're here to talk tech a bit more, so I'll summarize and let you read more for yourself. For disabled people, being greener isn't as simple as using public transport more, or avoiding single-use plastics, or switching to electric vehicles. Changes made to help with climate change could make life better or worse for disabled people. And some aspects of climate action can present barriers for disabled people, an effect being called eco-ableism, which encourages the othering of disabled people rather than inclusion. A couple of examples. Disabled people are particularly vulnerable travellers. Some approaches for encouraging greener travel can actually mean greater anxiety and safety concerns for disabled people. A full blanket ban on plastic straws can mean that some people may be unable to drink in public spaces. Alternatives are often found to be unsuitable, unfortunately. Solutions don't always work for everyone, is my point. Perhaps the answer to some of these issues can be found through a more inclusive approach. More on that later. What might be trickier to understand than the real-world connections between disability and climate action, however, is how accessibility in the digital world affects disabled people when it comes to climate action. As an environmentalist who has worked in digital accessibility for nearly 20 years, that's a typo in my notes. This is an area I'm particularly interested in. There appears to be very little active research on this. Yet when I started looking into it, there's a lot I feel I could say, much more than in a 20-minute talk. So I've decided to write a blog post or two about this as well. Anyway, the negative impacts of climate change on disabled people is rarely talked about, but the impacts are becoming increasingly apparent. According to research by the UN and GSMA, affordability and accessibility of technology products, as well as digital literacy, are the main barriers affecting their digital access and inclusion. We need affordable solutions, accessible information and engagement mechanisms, improvement to digital skills, and to make it easier for people to adapt. The World Wide Web and digital applications are increasingly important in many aspects of life, and people are getting left behind. If we focus in on this a bit, I see this as breaking down into following general areas, which I'll talk about. Access to information, or to knowledge, we could say. Ability to participate, to have voices heard, to be represented, and access to resources and services. Access to information. Engagement on anything is best done inclusively. Accessibility, whether physical or digital, is best incorporated from start to finish. Just like with user experience design, the value is in doing things right the first time, not retrofitting your best guesses. If our communications, our awareness raising, our efforts and action around climate change are not accessible to disabled people, then it can't be inclusive and not as effective as it could be. I'll give you some tips on how to begin doing this in a moment. Ability to participate. Digital accessibility is also about ensuring that disabled people can take part in digital society as producers as well as consumers of information, and to have their voices heard. Disabled people must be able to contribute to discussion around climate action. They too benefit from the tools that we use to communicate, make plans, and take action. So the tools that we create and use need to be accessible. Disabled people need to be able to be engaged in meaningful ways, and often such engagement is reduced to online surveys rather than more active participation. The output of these surveys tend to be more open to interpretation than an actual conversation. And these surveys must in themselves be accessible. I separate access to services from access to information because they can have different impacts. The UN has some interesting statistics here. In some countries, only 14% of persons with disabilities use the internet, they say. Over 60% of online national portals include features that are not accessible. And we have to ask ourselves why this is. And remembering that disability communities on the front line of climate change are the most vulnerable to its effects, we need to ensure that any online services that we work on are accessible. So back to digital accessibility and sustainability. There are many parallels that we can draw from other areas that we already know more about. There are many co-benefits and crossovers with digital accessibility and sustainability: clarity, efficiency, performance, findability in SEO, robustness. For me, accessibility is just part of good design. What's essential for some can be useful for all. Sustainable design is more about perhaps being efficient and resilient. These things are, for me, a quality of your work, ingredients in your method rather than an end goal. And achieving these things is a team sport requiring practice and the right mindset. In my experience, these aspects are key. One solution does not fit all. We're not trying to solve single problems, we're trying to solve many. Achieving these things requires a team effort. We need to engage everyone, or as many as possible. And these things take organizational commitment and alignment. One solution does not fit all. Every person has their own needs and preferences. That's why I believe that things cannot be fully accessible to everyone, for example. It's more about always working to be better. Let's revisit cycling for a moment. We talked about it a moment ago. Cycle path gates and other obstacles designed to stop motorbikes and encourage cycling pose problems for legitimate users. They cannot be passed by people using some wheelchairs, adaptive bicycles, and tricycles. Such solutions are often the result of inadequate consultation or an attitude towards accessibility that sees it as a tick box exercise. And there's another parallel between accessibility and sustainability efforts. A journey more than a destination, a quality of what we do rather than something that we need to check the list. And I find this sort of thing a lot when working with clients. I always aim to ensure that things are built for the widest possible audience, yet also adaptive to individual needs to prioritize equity. And that's a key word, actually, that we've mentioned quite a bit, adaptive. A sustainable future is about our adaptability. Adaptability results in greater resilience, and adaptability also results in greater accessibility. Achieving accessibility and sustainability both require a team effort. Time and time again, I've seen organizations trying to ensure the accessibility of their products and services by going about it the wrong way. And too often this is making one person the subject matter expert. A commitment to accessibility is great, but leaning too heavily on individuals can, to achieve this quality of work, tends to not be successful. Think about quality assurance itself. This is often done by a team, not by a single person. But QA is often retrospective in of itself. And to be successful, QA needs to have had things like acceptance criteria defined, which in turn should be informed by design and hopefully by real users. This works fine for functionality, but not necessarily for meeting user needs, those human beings that you're building for. So this is why UX design has become so important, which leads me on to the final of those, organizational commitment and alignment. In order to get accessibility and sustainability right, we need to have diverse and inclusive design processes that incorporate accessibility early on. So how do we make sustainability more accessible to disabled people and more inclusive to all people? Accessibility is about opening doors to people, so here's a handy mnemonic along those lines: latch, learn, attitude, teach, communicate better, and help people and planet. Learn. Sounds ridiculously obvious to suggest, but challenge yourself to learn more about the things you know you should know more about. And make time for it, because those things are important. I'm going to give you some tips here to get you started and intend to share more with you as I learn more. Let's stick with the L's for a minute though. Language matters. I've already shown my pedantic nature when it comes to defining things like the word inclusion as opposed to disability inclusion. We need to write for readability and inclusion, and here are a few ways you can do that. Be clear, concise, consistent. Use plain language, short sentences, and simple words. Avoid language that excludes or is ableist. In general, be respectful. Don't reinforce stereotypes and common misconceptions. try to use gender neutral words and phrases. For disability inclusion, avoid using ableist language. Keep an eye out for words and phrases that carry negative connotations or have negative impact for disabled people. Learn about your own ableist stumbling blocks and work to change them. And think about alternative words and phrases. Understand the difference between identity first language and person first language. Now, identity first language is where it might be the phrase disabled people, where somebody with a disability takes their disability as part of their identity. Whereas person first language is more about putting person before their disability. So you end up with phrases like person with a disability or people with disabilities. Now, this difference is actually a matter of personal preference. Surveys suggest that the majority of people first prefer to incorporate disability as part of their identity and who they are. And people use that language to claim their identity. Whereas person-first language focuses on a person as an individual first, rather than being defined by their disability. I could say more about that, but there's a whole topic in of itself. Avoid using collective terms, by things like the disabled. I suggest using the phrase disabled people because it helps to avoid this. Why avoid this? It's again that issue of othering people, a particular group of people. You can't account for personal preference, so when in doubt, ask. Talk to people about disability. It's not taboo. And don't worry about getting your language wrong or being politically correct. Language shouldn't be a barrier to your learning. And talking to a disabled person shouldn't cause you to speak differently to how you would speak to anybody else. And that brings me to A in Latch. There's a lot to be said for attitude. Indeed, there's a lot I could say on this as well. In some ways, I shouldn't be up here. I'm conscious of not representing the people that I advocate for. I believe in equality and fairness for all, and that we must embrace diversity and inclusion in that wider sense to build a world for everyone. So how do we do this? My hope is that it's through fair and open conversation and spreading awareness and changing things. Unfortunately, that's not always been my experience. I really like this quote from Christy Grutman from Brown Girl Green. She's an environmental campaigner, teacher, and podcaster. I'm not going to read it all, it's quite long, but the important bit, everyone comes to this space from different set of upbringings, values, and needs. And that means people should be allowed to critique, challenge, and improve the pathway towards a more sustainable future. Attitude is everything when it comes to understanding others, raising awareness on important issues, asking questions and giving answers. So leave room for nuance. I think it comes back to kindness, really. If you want an inclusive world, we need to exercise our kindness. Sadly, this is something that can easily be missing from conversations around emotive subjects, or something that can often be lost in text-based communication like email, messaging apps, and social media. An ally with the right attitude is better than burying your head in the sand. Disability is a topic that can make people feel awkward. I mainly put this down to a lack of awareness and understanding of disability, but many of us need to think differently about disability. And this has brought scope to develop their End the Awkward campaign, encouraging people to hi. Say hi. Introduce yourself. Don't panic. End the awkward. There's a video there all about it. I'm doing my best to be an ally and to have a positive attitude and to learn when I realise my knowledge is lacking and to then teach others with kindness. So latch, T is teach. I suspect many of us here working from a place of passion and purpose, and will be used to raising awareness about issues that are important to them, like climate action and sustainability in general. So use your learning to teach others and use your unique skills to do so. C, communicate better. We've already mentioned using inclusive language, but what other ways can we make our websites, presentations, PDF documents, emails, social media posts, how can we make them more accessible? Here are just a couple of tips to get you started. If your message is important enough to put together a graphic, make sure that it's accessible. Add text alternatives to images. Be mindful of color use and contrast. How we use color can affect people with low vision, color blindness, and other conditions, and how they access your content. Be particularly careful with text over the top of images, and I see this a lot on websites and on social media, including in climate comms. You want more advice and tips for creating more accessible content? Check out a series of videos, short videos about 7 minutes long, that I recorded for UK charities a couple of years ago, which are available for free on YouTube. Writing and designing for accessibility. And finally, the H is for helping people and the planet. If you're here or watching or reading this, chances are you're worried about climate change and are engaged in climate action. We're worried about our planet. We understand the problems and we even know a lot about some of the solutions, but I feel we have a way to go to understanding the people part of the equation and know how those solutions work for all people. So a couple of actions to leave you with. Plan with accessibility and inclusion in mind. Engage and listen to disabled people and to all voices. Perhaps try connecting with local disability groups. I hope you found this interesting and at least a little bit useful. I've included loads of links in the slides which have been made available earlier, and as I said, it's something that I want to write more about, so do find me online, and hopefully we'll be learning more together. So thanks very much.
Right, thanks guys. Yeah, thanks very much. If you guys want to get another drink and grab some leftover pizza, that's good, and we'll get set up for questions. And yeah, we'll be happy.
I think that's really a drop at 2:15, just by the time next time, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So it's a little bit
of questions and then I'll.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you want me to?
Unlike yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so where are you thinking of putting it?
In the middle.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want in a minute. Yeah, you're going to be showing as well. So.
Hello, online community. Thanks for sticking with us. We are just doing a quick changeover of the slides because, as you saw, it is a little bit tricky. So we didn't think we'd put you all through the pain of doing that. And we are about to get into questions. So thank you so much to those of you that have submitted your questions already. I've written those down and handed them over to Mike. And here we go. We're about to start with questions. So I'll hand over to Mike and Ellen.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. We've got a slight sort of mic issue, so we all ready?
Hey,
Is everyone ready?
Everybody ready? So we're just going to finish off with a few questions. We have quite a few from our online audience. Quite a few. Bear with us. I think we're all good to go from the online side of things. And Mike, over to you for questions.
All good. So yeah, we'll take some questions from the room and then some from online. We've got a slight issue with mics, so I won't be running around giving you mics. I'll just paraphrase your questions, so you can keep it mercifully short, and then hopefully the people at home can hear the answer through my laptop. So if we can take one question from the room first for either John or Jamie or Tom. Anyone got any? No? We'll take one. Yeah, okay.
Curious about your software, and you mentioned in the beginning that we've got the simple grid, and then we might have new forms of energy coming from multiple sources. A lot of data coming from renewable energy, wind energy, solar energy, the electrical grid system. How is this very different? A lot of data logging you get from multiple sourcing, and then how does this read with the smart meters at homes? How do you foresee this might become an issue? A lot of data logging into your software in the future coming from many different sources. I was struggling to understand how this is going to be sort of utilized from a lot of different grids, I mean, from energy grids in the future, and how this will work.
Yeah, I'm going to struggle with that. Did we hear that one at home? Maybe.
I'll paraphrase the question.
Yeah, if you can paraphrase the answer.
I think your question was about how do we bring together data from all different places into that kind of new grid system. Well, we're already doing that. So I mentioned our Flex product, and I mentioned it kind of takes on a load of information. So some of that information comes from your smart meter, so that half-hourly read that we get. Some of that information comes from the car itself, or the battery, or the smart device, and that's, as I mentioned, all live. Some of it comes straight from the grid. So the grids, the national grid, our UK operator, will tell us everything that's going on. It's moving, I think, to even more frequent. So almost like every 30 seconds, they could release a new kind of alert. So it's already happening. Jamie, I think you need to answer the more kind of technical question, but we are already pulling together data from so many different sources and using it in these ways already.
Yeah, and I think more to the tech side, that is essentially what our product is. It's about the data. For us, it's data as a product. Data is where we're going to be able to give our offering to the retail partners that we work with, and it's not just a bit of software that allows us to onboard or offboard customers from energy suppliers. It's about sending them the data and the information they need to know to better manage those processes. And we're building our system. Like you talked about, how are we going to cope with all that data? That's essentially what we're building our systems for, is to cope with all of that data and do something meaningful with that data. Yes, yeah.
I can talk from a user perspective. I've been on a vehicle to grid, vehicle to home scheme where we're essentially using our electric vehicle as a domestic battery for storing energy, and we have a solar array as well. And as for the end use of some of this data, it allows me at home to prioritize certain sources of energy. So if I've got enough solar, of course, it's going to power the house. I can then choose to export that if it's going to make me some money. During peak periods, as you said earlier, Tom, it allows us to power the house off the car. And the overall sort of impact, it allows us to do things like there's solar eating is one phrase that's used, where the car is eating excess solar that is generated. So our solar goes into the house, powers the house, but then anything left over powers and is stored in the car. Then there's load following, which is where the house, if there's a high load, something like an oven running or the washing machine or something like that, if there's a high load in the house, rather than importing expensive electricity from the grid, we can choose to power that off the car. So there's things like that and I've got, you said about smart meters. I mean, the smart meter doesn't really help us. In fact, we've been downgraded on our smart meter, where it doesn't show us as much as the old one did. But rather than that, we've got an app that tells us where all this data is flowing, or provides us with a window on where all this energy is flowing.
Great stuff. Yeah, great question, great answers. Got one for John. This is from our home audience. Your inclusive writing tips were great. Can you recommend any other online resources on this?
For sure. There's a lovely lady, a friend of mine called Ashley Bischoff. She has great resources on this, and they're in fact linked in the slide deck. I linked also to the videos that I recorded on YouTube. A link to her information is also in there, and I elaborate in those videos. They're about 7-8 minutes long. I elaborate in those videos on what I had to kind of rush through in the slide deck. So yeah, take a look at those.
So thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Disabled people quite like to have different patterns of energy usage, particularly because of all sorts of reasons, or households with disabled people. How can your software, can your software help support, help those households understand their usage better? Yeah, be interested to know a bit more about whether you actually see patterns and whether you can see patterns in terms of they can support them, what you're doing there.
I think it might be okay if you can refer to it.
I can talk about Green Labs, but yeah. So Jamie mentioned Green Labs, but one of the ideas coming out of it, and people need to jump in on this in a minute, but is all about treating each customer as an individual, and tailoring everything to them. So customers now can go into their account and see everything. You're with Ovo, and then it's ready, but you can see everything that you're using, and it breaks it down nicely. So it's like, here's what's on a standby at any one time. All that information is personal to you. We're now looking like one step further into how do we offer an individual, it might be something like their tariff, something that's specific to them as a person, rather than kind of one tariff for loads of people. It's about how do we offer a proposition that's individual to the user and their specific case. Do you want to add to that?
I think you covered it really.
Cool.
Yeah.
I could probably add a little extra on to that one aspect of the technology that some disabled people are reliant on technology, and that technology requires electricity. And if there's a power cut, then something that might be even life-sustaining technology is gone. So by having something that is more resilient and reliable, and a system like this, I mean, I've already said somebody with a disabled person is less likely to be able to afford something like an electric car. Hopefully that's going to change over time. But with a system like we've got at home, I can power the house off of an electric car or a domestic battery or solar when there is a loss of electricity. So in a way, that's an example of where a sustainable solution can be more robust for the lived experience of somebody with a disability.
Great stuff, thank you for that. We've got a question for you guys from home. So is the Green Dev Handbook public?
Yeah, very timely. So it's not quite public yet, but we do have a goal that will be public. If I'm not wrong, by the end of the year, hopefully. Don't quote me on that, but we are absolutely intending to make this public. Like I said in my talk, this isn't about us keeping this internal. We want to develop this, learn from it, and then share that experience with everyone else. And I mentioned this one person that did it for 30 minutes. Like, my mind goes on to, what if one person in one company did something for 30 minutes and saved 60 kilograms? What would happen to every single engineer if every single person spent 30 minutes? So it's absolutely not about keeping this to ourselves. We want to share this information. We want to share our learnings.
Great stuff. We've got time for one more question from, yep, up at the back.
Again, do you use any like tools in place, or any sort of tools for like static code analysis or anything to identify code that could be inefficient? Lots of CPU cycles that are unnecessary. Are there any tools like that?
Yeah, I think.
Guys, could you repeat the question for those at home?
Sorry, it was quite long. Can you go again? Sorry.
Yeah. So with regards to the Green Dev Handbook.
With regards to the Green Dev Handbook.
Are there any tools that you suggest, or is there any static code analysis out there that that you can use to analyze how code is, or is it a pull requesting that other developers say like the impact of code?
Do you want me to?
Yeah. Okay.
So I think the question was, are there any tools essentially that allows us to look at how to make our code more sustainable? I think the answer is yes, but we're not actually focusing on the code itself specifically. That should be part of our standard engineering practice, like I mentioned, around our efficiency and what we're building. And a lot of that does come down to individuals and pull requests and best practices. Where we're really focused on, and the people that we're working with, are our partners in kind of the infrastructure space. Like I said, I mentioned Amazon, the Googles of the world. And we're really looking at those kind of tools and how do we make this stuff more visible? That's the issue that we have right now, is we know what we need to change. We just don't have all of that data coming from the partners that are helping us to host our services, to run our cloud, okay? And we need their help to expose that data to us so that we can then turn that into meaningful information that we can then act upon. So that's really where we're focusing a lot of our efforts, rather than how do we make our code more efficient. We're doing it through, like I gave that example of taking lots of queries and merging them into one. So engineers are naturally doing that where they can, but it would be a lot better if we could proactively look at something and be pointed to it and say, that's not running at the right time, or actually you've got that batch job and why are you running it at 5 o'clock? Why don't you run it at 3 o'clock in the morning instead? Yes, this is Alex, everybody.
So I work with Jamie and Tom at Kaluza on the Green Lab stuff. So just to extend, there's a specific thing that we are doing, which we use Datadog, for sort of monitoring, alerting, logging. One of the engineers was actually having this problem, but how can I actually take action on making my infrastructure greener at the team level? So he actually built I'm not going to get the terminology right, but he wrote some code to basically pull national grid carbon intensity data, and it inserts a metric into Datadog every 30 minutes to tell us like what that curve looks like. So you can compare sort of your CPU usage versus carbon intensity. And he was telling me earlier today that he actually decided there's something that was running regularly, and he paused it and thought that can wait until the next day. And then he restarted it at like whatever time it was, and he was like, look, I saved all of this carbon just by taking that really small action. So that specific example of the Datadog one, we're going to look to expand that out internally, but these are the sorts of things I think we want to see what can we do wider than that, and then make it available to other people that are Datadog users. It's nothing precious to us, it's something that we want to share and sort of get that wider.
Absolutely. So Alex is one of our product managers who actually leads Green Labs. And so this individual came up with this idea and said, I think we need to fix this, went to Alex, that's why it started at Green Labs, and that's how it's all flowing through into our visibility dashboard and back into green development.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, and thanks, Alex, for sharing that as well. I think a round of applause for the speakers for fielding the questions. And I know Tom has a train to catch, so thank you so much for coming, Tom, and your talk was absolutely brilliant. So we'll let you go.
I'm going to run. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm sure my email's going to go out as well. If you've got any more questions, happy to chat. Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I think Ellen is coming back to wrap up the event. So thank you again, John and Jamie.
Yeah, the wrap up is going to be really super simple, super quick. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks to all our amazing speakers for such great talks. And yeah, let's just get to the networking and yeah, talk to each other. This will be shared round about tomorrow evening. I'll make sure all links from your slides, John, and all links that were shared online will all be available, slides, everything. So yeah, let's.
And so we're going to head to the pub. So yeah, how could you forget a pub?
Where are you going to drink?
So for those of us that are here, obviously for those of us that are at home, we will wish you good night and thank you very much for joining us. For those of you that are here, if you would like to come and join us at the Wetherspoons pub, which is called the Knights Templar, which is just around the corner if you know where that is. No obligation. If you want to shoot off, of course, no problem. But if you'd like to come and chat, network a little bit, we would love to chat and network with you. And as Ellen said, you're all awesome. Thank you so much for coming. And we've got pizza left. No, you ate it all. Well done. Yay, thank you. Good work. That's a good thing. Yeah, thank you everyone for being a part of our community. We really love that you've come, spent the time with us this evening, and